So, you've probably seen the headlines, right? A conflict thousands of miles from here is suddenly making everyone wonder about the fuel in our cars and even the gas in our kitchens. What's really going on with India's energy supply? Well, let's dive right in and break it all down. This is it. This is the big question on everyone's mind. Is our fuel supply really at risk? Today, we're going to unpack the official answer piece by piece, looking at exactly what the latest government reports are telling us. All right, first things first. What kicked all of this off? Well, it all goes back to a growing conflict over in West Asia. And this isn't just some distant news story. It's a situation that has a direct, almost immediate consequence for how energy moves around the planet and how it gets to us. And here we have the heart of the problem. You see, the Strait of Hormuz, think of it as a massive, critical superhighway for oil and gas tankers. It's a major choke point. So when that highway suddenly closes down, the traffic jam isn't just local. It creates a ripple effect that's felt across the entire globe, and especially right here in India. Okay, let's bring this right down to the kitchen level. Let's talk about the most immediate concern for pretty much every family in the country: cooking gas or LPG. Because this, right here, is where the impact of that shutdown was felt first and fastest. So the official word you'll hear is that the situation for our LPG imports is controlled. And while it's true, let's be clear, it's also a critical situation. When your imports get disrupted like this, you have to act, and you have to act fast to make sure we don't end up with widespread shortages.
So, what was the game plan? How did India respond to this challenge? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a really clear three-step strategy designed to tackle the problem head-on.
First up, they basically hit the accelerator on our own domestic production. And the speed here is just incredible. I mean, look at that number. A 28% boost in just 5 days. Think about that. That is a massive effort to fill the gap that those import disruptions created. Step 2 involved making a pretty tough choice. The government brought in the Essential Commodities Act, which basically means they had to decide who gets priority. The decision? 100% of the available LPG supply goes to households and essential services like hospitals. Now, this is great news for securing supply for all of us at home, but it does mean, unfortunately, that businesses like restaurants and hotels are facing temporary restrictions. And number 3. This is something you might have noticed yourself. There's a new rule for booking your next cylinder. The minimum gap has been extended just a little bit, from 21 days to 25. Now, and this is the important part, this isn't because there's some huge shortage. It's really about managing demand fairly and preventing a panic-hoarding situation, which could create a problem where there isn't one. Okay, so that's the story with cooking gas. It's a challenge, for sure, but one that's being really carefully managed. But what about the bigger picture? What about the crude oil that becomes the petrol and diesel for our cars and our industries? Well, this is where the story gets much, much more reassuring. And it's all thanks to years of planning. And the reason for that security? It's right here. See, this wasn't an accident. For years, India has been playing the long game, strategically diversifying where we get our oil from. And the result? It's a total game changer. A whopping 70% of our crude oil imports don't even go near the Strait of Hormuz. That is a massive strategic shield. And that's not all. On top of that diversification, India has a backup plan. The best way to think about this is like a giant national energy savings account. These are our strategic petroleum reserves. We're talking about over 5 million metric tons of crude oil just sitting there for a rainy day. And guess what? That rainy day is now. So they're being used to buffer the system against any shocks. Meanwhile, right here at home, our refineries are running at full tilt. I mean, they're operating at over 100% capacity. This ensures that every drop of crude oil we have is being turned into the petrol and diesel we need, super efficiently and with no delay.
So, while all of these domestic actions were clicking into place, something really crucial was happening behind the scenes, on the diplomatic front. And honestly, this might be the major turning point in this whole story.
I mean, just look at how fast this unfolded. Last week, the crisis escalates and the strait closes. But today, right now, after direct talks between Indian and Iranian officials, we have a breakthrough. Safe passage has been secured specifically for Indian oil tankers. This is a huge diplomatic win, and it changes the game. Okay, so we've talked about LPG, we've talked about crude oil, and we've talked about this major diplomatic breakthrough. But let's get down to it. What does all of this actually mean for you? For your wallet? For the price you pay at the pump? All right, here's the bottom line, plain and simple. For petrol and diesel, prices are expected to stay stable. For your cooking gas at home, your supply is secure and, importantly, it's still subsidized. The only real pinch right now is on the commercial side, those restaurants and hotels we mentioned who are facing temporary supply restrictions. And, keeping that cooking gas price stable for you, well, it isn't cheap. The government has just given the green light to a massive 30,000 crore rupee package for next year. What's that for? Essentially, it's to compensate the oil companies so they can keep selling LPG to households at that subsidized rate, protecting all of us from the crazy high prices on the international market. And this really brings us to the most important message from the government, summed up perfectly by Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. The key takeaway is this: the shortages we sometimes see are more often driven by our own anxiety and panic buying than by an actual lack of fuel. The system is stable. The advice is clear: don't panic buy. So, when you put it all together, it's clear India has managed to navigate this crisis pretty effectively, using a mix of quick domestic action, those strategic reserves, and some really smart diplomacy. The immediate fire has been put out. But it does leave us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? What's the long-term plan? How do we build a future where India is truly energy independent? And that is something to think about.